we win. I don't think we've capitalized enough off of our winning. It's probably thought of as you got to sacrifice this sport for that sport. And you really don't. There's enough space for all of us to accept.
Equal Pay Pioneers is presented by Cadillac.
Today, I am joined by someone who, honestly, if you read all her accomplishments and accolades, it eats up half your interview time. So needless to say, Dawn Staley, the great, Hall of Famer in basketball, certainly on her way to be one, in college basketball as well, as she has built an entire franchise at South Carolina. Coach, thanks for being with us. And this is an entire series about equity, why it's important. Women's, equal pay is important. So I'll kind of start at the same place I start with most people, which is, why do you think that equal pay for women is important?
Well, I think equal pay is important. Equal pay. I think for as long as I've been living, there is a disparity in the amount of money that women make, that Black women make versus white women versus white men. And if we're doing the same job, and if we're excelling at the same pace or better, it just makes sense. I know people can talk about women's basketball sports being revenue producing or not revenue producing. We are revenue producing. We are. We've led the nation in attendance for the past 10 years. There's revenue that wasn't coming in prior to the 10 years that we were producing these attendance records, which means that people are buying tickets, people are at the concession stands, people are buying women's basketball gear. So there is some producing of revenue. It may not hit the mark. A lot of men's programs don't make as much money as they're spending, and we fail to include all of it. But when it comes to just what we do, how we prepare our teams, the types of successes and notoriety that we bring to our sport, our university, our athletics department, there are people, students, regular students that are, and I don't want to call them regular students, just non-student athletes that are coming to colleges. They're coming because, some of them are coming because that women's basketball has been to the Final Four 3 out of 4 years. A lot of them are coming because football as well, but it's producing revenue that are hidden figures in our sports. And I think sometimes we got to bring those numbers out so people can stop whining about equal pay and why they think women should not get what their male counterparts are getting from a salary standpoint.
It's such a misnomer, I think. And we talk a lot about that in this series, Dawn. And I say this all the time. When we think about the next sort of movement in supporting women's sports, it's getting past this idea that, like, you should do it because you came of a woman and you have a daughter and it's the right thing to do. Instead of looking at it from the business strategy side and saying, it's not just the right thing to do, it's incredibly profitable. How do we get past, Dawn, sort of looking at just the morality around women's sports and start looking at the untapped potential it has long-term for your business?
I don't know, but I do think the fact that the Nebraska volleyball team doing things like that, investing in women, like if you go on any campus, and I specifically our university of South Carolina, and we got some incredible donors. Like we do. They support our athletics departments. They support our sports, our teams, and all of that. We go to them every time we need something. We go to the same ones, right? And sometimes we're not exploring. Like I know a lot of people around here, around the state of South Carolina, that wouldn't mind giving to women's sports if we tapped into them. I can ask. Sometimes I have a little issue asking because, I feel bad because I don't want them to feel like I'm asking because they're supporting. I am, but if the development, the people who are on campus to raise money, if they would tap into this particular market, I know there will be a lot more females that are willing to give just because they haven't really been asked. And is it my job to do it? Yes, part of it is my job to do it, especially when we're in this space of NIL. Yes, it's my job to do it, but it's an untapped area that we're missing big time, big time. And I know someone's gonna beat us to the punch, but I'm saying it, I'm screaming it on our campus that it's an untapped market that we need to explore. And if we do, um, I know that I know that we will meet the mark more than we're meeting the mark as far as the reasons why we don't feel like we can give programs and coaches the investment that they deserve.
I love so much that you mentioned NIL too, because certainly for a long time, it was an untapped market for athletes. Athletes like you, Don, you were a two-time National Player of the Year. You were consistently taking Virginia on these deep runs, and you could not profit off your name, image, and likeness. And I wonder, Coach, how it informs what you talk to your girls about as they're navigating their brands and their businesses along with being student athletes.
I want them to get it all. Like I want them to get it all. I do want the sanctity of our team to still stay intact, but there is opportunity for it's one more thing for them to manage their time and prioritize their time. There is enough for every athlete to do what they want to do, still excel at sports, still get to excel in the classroom, still excel in the NIL space, still excel socially. Um, you can be great at all of those things. It's when that life pie, if something is taking more of their share of it, that's when they get imbalanced, and that's when you need somebody that really has an understanding of it and has a heart for it. Because it's not. I know this. It's not all about winning for our players now. It's a part of it. It's a part of it. It's about them winning personally in their lives, and I really get that. So we do have hard conversations about it. We do have conversations in which I'm telling them to earmark some time uh, to capitalize in this NIL space because it's here. I don't know how long it's going to be here for, but now is the time to do all those things that you want to do. Go if you're going to buy yourself a car, then you got to make sure that you can pay that car note. You got to pay that insurance unless your parents want to put you on theirs, and it's gonna be skyrocket. So if you want to be self-sufficient, these are some of the things that you can do in this space now. But it will take some time. It will take some time from some of the things that you need to do socially. It can't really take the time from academics and athletics, but socially, yeah, this is a big slice of the pie that you can invade that space.
You always refer to yourself as a dream merchant, and I always love that so much. And you've said it, right? So if your dream is to make the most NIL money like of all time, let me help you accomplish that if that's what you want. It's interesting, Don, when you think about, I joked about your resume and like just how long you've been sort of the thread of women's basketball, and you've really been behind two existential movements around women's basketball. Of course, first back in 1996, right? After the Olympic team, and there was all of this interest. And then we started seeing major pro women's basketball launching. And of course, now you're a part of this huge movement when, as we mentioned, we're seeing record viewership, record interest. They're at all-time highs. How do these two eras compare?
There seemed like we're doing it just for the purity of the game. Like, this is all we can do. The Olympics is the best that you can do in our sport. And then now you can be the best here in the WNBA. You can be the best Olympian. You can be the best in marketing your brands. Like it hits all areas of your life. You can set up and you can have generational wealth. And that just couldn't be in yesteryear. We got more out of being able to go overseas and play. Like that was great for me when I graduated from college because there was nothing else. And now that I see that the flip side of it, basketball is better. Like individual players are better because they had that carrot dangled in front of them of playing in the WNBA. All of my players that I've coached over the past, actually, since I've been coaching, they've had a WNBA. So our game has gotten better. So that in itself doesn't describe what investing in women will do. Like we got a league. I mean, it's a league in which we can charter every game. No, we don't have a league like that, but it's being talked about now. So it's not so far fetched. So if we're seeing what that small investment in women's sports is doing, soccer, softball, imagine if people were all hands on deck. Imagine. Like I sometimes can't really understand it because isn't our money green? Like, can our money have commas in it? Can we talk about hundreds of millions of dollars? I just don't understand why we choose not to. Why we choose not to. I don't get it. But the moment you do, and the moment that people have invested in women and women's sports, we've far exceeded their expectations.
I love that, for so long, it feels like, Coach, it's so much like, well, but how do we, promote it? And what do we talk about? And, it's all fundamentals. How do we, and I think you brought up the Nebraska, the Nebraska event. It was not a stunt. It was paid attendance, 92,000 people. And why? Because they took time, because Nebraska is uniquely a volleyball town and they love great teams who dominate. And if you promote them and you market them, you enjoy the fruits of your labor, and it just doesn't seem like it's that hard. But this is something that you have been fighting for a long time. I remember sitting with you after you won your national championship a couple of years ago against UConn. And I remember on the stage, like just fresh off of winning your natty, you were immediately talking about the media and the media rights and how they needed to, have competition. And it's always top of mind for you. And I wonder, God, Dawn, does that ever get exhausting?
No, it doesn't. I'm really drawn to challenges. And it may not be in my coaching career, it may not even be in my lifetime, but somebody is going to reap the benefits of the hard work that some of us coaches are really pouring into our game and pouring into women's sports. Somebody's going to reap the benefits maybe 10, 20, 30 years down the line, where we'll be on equal footing. And I will say this, in fairness to people who are in sports, especially on like the university level, like the athletics department, they really don't know how to support and market women's sports. It's a known thing. It's getting a little bit more popular, but they really don't. I had a conversation with somebody here, a couple of I guess first couple of years here, and the best thing he said to me, the very best thing he said to me was he didn't know how. He didn't know how to market Black women or women's sports because that's never been in the forefront. It's always been a pecking order of football, men's basketball, baseball. And then everybody else, all the women's sports get the rest of it. Like we get recycled stuff. And for us here in South Carolina, we don't like the recycled stuff. We're innovative, we're creative. And if it has to generate from our office, and we do spend time thinking about strategizing, what's going to be popular, what will our fans love, what will set us apart from other programs here on campus and outside of our campus. We really think about those things, and I do think we've had some cutting edge things that people really enjoy. I think our brand, we got a brand. Like South Carolina women's basketball has a brand, and a brand of basketball, a brand of marketing that people are looking for. They're thinking, what's our theme? They want to know what our theme is for this year, because it's something cool that's inclusive to not just us. It's inclusive to women's basketball. It's inclusive to the people who support women's basketball, our fans. So if I'm thinking about it in this manner, imagine if the head of marketing that's marketing football, because they probably go to conferences to figure out what's going to work for football. If you put that same kind of energy in all sports, if you want to knock it out the park with all sports, we have to have that mentality, because you're the marketing department. So imagine if you did that, you're going to be the ones that are highlighted. Like I wish they were more competitive. Like I wish they were more like intra-competitive. Like I want women's basketball to outdo football. I want women's soccer to outdo women's basketball, outdo men's basketball. Like we need to bring the competitive spirit on campus. I mean, granted, keep it healthy, keep it healthy, but that's who we are. Like I'm a competitor. Like I see what you're doing for other programs around here. I do. I see what you're doing. And if you're not giving us what we need, we're going to still excel. We're going to still win. You can't. We win. We win. I don't think we've capitalized enough off of our winning. I don't think we capitalize enough. And it's hard to win. It's very incredibly hard to win. And when you're at a stage where we were for the past 4 to 6 years, we should have generated a lot more money than we have. We should have, but I don't think we do it enough, because I think it's probably thought of as you got to sacrifice this sport for that sport, and you really don't. There's enough space for all of us to excel.
I think too, because women have been so conditioned to just be grateful for, what has been deemed equality since Title IX, but to not expect or demand equity, which is really, there's a huge difference, right? It's in having exactly what I need, custom fit, retrograded to me, for me, not just throwing me out on the field with nothing, but allowing me everything I need to excel. And you've done that, Dawn. Like you have shown that you can build a program. You have shown that you can build a championship program. You have now shown you can build a dynasty. What else are you trying to show, Dawn Staley?
I mean, Elle, I'm gonna tell you like this. I think some people think that I fight for myself. Like I mean, if that comes with the territory, but I really am not just fighting for myself. Like everybody that has a hand in the success of our program, right? Everybody that has a hand, like I look at our strength coach. I mean, she's done nothing but win since she's come to our program. She should be making it as much as her counterpart, strength coach. Seriously, like I think about that. I think about, is Diana on this call? Diana Koval should be making as much as her male counterpart, because of the success that we've had with our program. Our assistant coaches should be making as much as the male assistant coaches on men's basketball. Like seriously, like it's a no-brainer. There should not be a difference. Our administrators, Maria Hickman is is my sports supervisor. She's, I don't know, second in command, third in command. I don't know what, but she should be making what the top male associate AD should be making. Why? Why isn't that happening? And people are going to say, "Oh, shut up," or I mean, no. Why? Why should there be a difference if your sport is excelling? I can see if we weren't good, if we weren't successful, we weren't winning. You gotta, you can stake a claim on that. But when we're winning, every time we win, I'm fighting. Like I'm fighting for I go line by line. What about Molly? What about Diana? What about And I'm like, yeah, take my bonuses and give them that. Like I'm serious. I'm like, divvy it up. And, and they can't. They can't. They can't tip the scale because there's a certain area that people need to be in because it just keeps everything clean across the board here and within our league. What? What? There's nobody in our league that has been winning like our team. So, and they may never get an opportunity to get a raise if their teams aren't winning. So this isn't, is it was fortunately for us, we've been winning a whole lot. And I do think with winning, raises should come. Everybody that touches that program should. Because we give raises to subpar success in other sports. Everybody, head coach, assistant coaches, and that's in order for us to keep them. Like keep them in place. Don't let anybody come out recruit them away. Like why? The people that work with our program, they love what they're doing. You don't get paid for what you love to do. You don't. You have to actually have one foot in and one foot out interviewing at some other places to be valued. And that's wrong. That's wrong. But but you got to be prepared to move too, because sometimes they're just not willing to give you what you deserve and what you've earned.
It's the ultimate mind game, and it's the opposite of a meritocracy, right? When you have to consistently threaten to leave in order to have the leverage to get what you've earned. And by the way, I've got a friend that played football at South Carolina 20 years ago, and he will emphatically tell you South Carolina is a women's basketball school now, period. That's what it is. That is their legacy. Speaking of which, I've got one more question for you, Coach. When you think about the many lives and roles and adventures of Dawn Staley, in your eyes, what chapter will define you the most?
I'm going to say this: the relationships that I've built with not only my players but their parents. Like their parents, that this is really cool. Like, I do take on a lot. Like any parent, a parent just texts me maybe 3-4 weeks ago, and she's like, I got to get my finances in order. I want to start accumulating some wealth, and I want to start doing my thing in real estate. So I'm like, okay, cool. I linked her in with a financial advisor. Say, hey, this is one of my former, players' moms. She wants to create some wealth, and can you look out for her? Say less, coach. We got her. That's super cool to me. I mean, it's a lot on me to just make those inroads with people, but still, like, I mean, for her to call on me, I mean, there's plenty of people I know she would probably know, but her to feel comfortable enough, to trust me enough to say, hey, can you help me out in this area? And any one of our coaches, any one of our parents, that is the dynamics that I wanted to create. I want family. I want us to be family, for good, for bad, for information, for anything. And that's probably what I want to be the telling chapter of my career.
Dream merchant. That sounds like a dream merchant to me. Thank you so much, Coach, for your time and of course, as always, for your dominance and your excellence. It's funny because your girls, when you talk to them, they always say the same thing about you. They describe you as many things. It could be a second mom or a TT or a cousin, but it's always family. If of course your family beat everybody's ass. So thank you for your time. Good luck this upcoming season.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you.
This episode of Equal Pay Pioneers is presented by Cadillac. Be iconic.